Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's once again Tech Talk time, and this time it's, been a pretty chill week. Not really a ton has gone on. Just been getting the Naval event done and putting in a few more hours when it comes to different stuff. Played Rise on a Rome, which was quite fun, apart from some really bad audio desync issues. But apart from that, everything's been pretty good. There hasn't really been a lot to report this week, The event's been going. Obviously, we had the update, which got launched last week, so I haven't really been doing too much. Just been playing Naval, spading out some vehicles, trying to get them done, and just chilling. And I think that's been actually quite nice to do. I think it's been pretty cool to go around and sort all those different things out. It's kind of weird. It doesn't actually tell me that these things have been exported or not. That's kind of odd. I wonder why it's done that. But yeah, so what we're going to do today is obviously go through the comments of last week's Tech Talk. As always, if you want to actually get involved in the Tech Talks, if you want something chatted about, make sure to put it in the comments section of this video so we can kind of go through it. And yeah, I mean, the thinking about this period of time, even though there's like a lot going on, it's like a lot of small stuff, right? Like you got the Imperial Flagship event, you have tank football, which is also going on right now, in the events tab. We're able to get to 200 on that, so I don't want to do any more. Like I'm not interested in these. I've already done them, so there's not really much point. And then, of course, the page of history, and the battle pass is slowly but surely meandering to an end. Luckily, right now, I'm at 36 of the special tasks, so if we get to the 50 mark, I'll be happy. I'm trying to get to 40 for a very simple reason. I'm actually stuck at level 80 because I can't click this on because I'll have too many war bonds. So even though I have like all of these unlocked, I can't touch them yet. So yeah, make sure to get the last this one done as well, or one of the challenges. I used the VBC for this one. It was pretty fun. The VBC PT2. Actually, been really enjoying my time with this lineup, so looking forward to it going forward. So let's get started and let's get going. We're going to be playing 5-7 Britain, just because that's what I've been spading for this naval event. Trying to, just kind of play them and have a bit of fun. Not really taking it too seriously, just kind of chilling and grinding stuff out. Like, it's been fine, I've ground out the Tiger, the London, and also the Norfolk right now. So now we've got the Kent, the York, the Southampton, and I don't know if I'm going to play the Glorious. We'll see. We'll see how I feel at the end of the day. So let's get to the questions. Let's get to all the stuff, and let's see what's been going on. So the first one is from Vermilion, which reminds me of good old... what is their name? Slipknot. There we go. I think everybody went through a Slipknot period. I enjoy Slipknot, though. They're pretty fun to listen to, even today. A lot of varied music, which is quite nice. The April Fool's event is already running. It's called Naval. Haha, lol. Very funny. Hee hee. OMFG. Kappa, whatever. No. Obviously not. But, yeah, they have done Naval April Fool's events before. And I know a lot of people didn't like the changes to Naval, but I actually enjoyed them quite a lot. So it's just, how it goes. I think personally, at least for me, stuff like that is much more enjoyable when you can actually do damage to things instead of running into vehicles and not being able to do any damage to them. I don't find that fun at all. And it was kind of boring to play now. Because we're back to like the old method, which is just spam a bunch of AP at people and hope to get a kill, and I don't find that enjoyable, never have done, so we'll see what happens. Like it's the problem with this like little BR bracket, right? Like it just feels really RNG, whereas when the update released, it didn't feel as RNG because you knew that everybody could do damage, you knew that everybody would be able to do everything. Like it felt good, but we're not there anymore. We're back to how it was previously, so who cares? Like it's just dull playing these larger ships. Then we have Justin JDN. I spit out my drink when you said donkey hiccups. Well, that's what it sounds like, right? Like yeah, like like I get really annoying hiccups, but it's usually because I just what's the word? I end up just like either drinking or eating too quick, because at least when it comes to like the stream stuff, I try my best to try and get those things done like quickly, and yeah, it can cause a few issues. Nice to see you, Lorico. Nice to see you too, Sargeman. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Then we have Dad of Famad House. Dad of a Madhouse. Is that what it's supposed to be? Oh, Dad of a Madhouse. Yeah, makes sense. Hey, Sinister Snack, nice to see you. It'd be cool to bring back some of the older events for people who weren't able to play them for whatever reason. But it would be cool, would also be cool if they implemented some of what if model kits from Model Collect. They've got some awesome walking tanks, 2, 4, 6-legged tank mechs. I'd be down for playing with some of them. I don't know what Model Collect is, but there was a bunch of those built for War Thunder. Let's see if I can find them actually. Because, you know, obviously when it comes to War Thunder, there's a bunch of different stuff which goes on all the time, and it would be nice if I agree if they brought back old events. I'd be fully down for that, right? Like I'm always down for things like that. I think it's fun to go through all of those things and just kind of have a bit of fun. I wish they brought them back on a rota. They do like some of them, right? Like they bring them back every so often, but unfortunately they haven't really for a long time. So just to show you like what I'm talking about, right? So these got leaked. Ooh, I have no idea when they got leaked. Let's see. When did I actually put them in this folder? It's probably a best one. 2021, I think. So I'll just show you guys. Hey Slanesh God, nice to see you, Miss Lep 207. So this was one of them that got leaked, as you can see, pretty cool. And there is a bunch of these which were made and just never really saw the light of game. And there was basically what happened was I think somebody put the wrong things on the wrong server. So people basically chucked a bunch of like stuff like this on the dev server when it was very obvious it shouldn't have been there. And yeah, so there's a bunch of these things. Like, look at that bloody thing. Like, what is that? So you might get your wish one day when it comes to this stuff. There's obviously more light ones. You know, there's the Sheridan turret, the Sherman, the Tiger 2. And you just got stuff like that. Like, look at that thing. Like, how crazy is that? So, yeah, maybe at some point you will get what you want, which is, you know, these like weird mech things, you know, which would be crazy. And then also, you know, you got a few other ones too. So yeah, like this one, it's like a Bulldog turret, I think, with 2 miniguns and a coaxial 40mm. So there you go, pretty nice, pretty decent. So yeah, just to give you an idea of what things could come in the future, and you know, maybe I'll make like a refresher video on them, because they are really cool and they came out. Oh, sorry, they didn't come out, but they were leaked a long time ago, and they were leaked alongside a lot of other stuff. And it was what was really nice about that leak, personally, was it was a perfect. Usually when it comes to leaks, there isn't like a ton backing them up, apart from, you know, usually they're like leaked from a person who knows what's going on. Those are models, so you know that they're ready, you know that they're going, right? And one of my favorite things about that is it kind of showed people how in the future, like, a lot of these things are actually planned. Because there was always this idea with Gaijin, and I don't know why, but this seems to be like a thing that happens with a lot of development houses or a lot of like just game companies, that, you know, they don't really know what they're doing. They're just like, you know, flash in the pan, have no idea like what they're planning or all of that stuff. But the problem is, I feel like the reason why many people get that idea is because you never really hear about what happens in development houses unless something goes horribly wrong and somebody starts leaking things, right? Like, hey, so they, like the GTA stuff, right? So if you have a look at like GTA, it's like, oh, you know, it seems pretty good game, everything went well, yada yada. Oh, there's a bunch of leaks where people were forced to work like 80, 90-hour weeks before the launch. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so like stuff like that, right? So it's just more about once again, you usually don't hear about things if everything is going well. You know, it's not really talked about as much in the media or whatever you want to call it, right? Good evening, Penguin Red, nice to see you. So with Gaijin, they plan insanely far ahead, which is why a bunch of those models in those leaks, because those are leaks for like everything. I mean, I could make a video next week about it actually. We're gonna start our War Thunder Nostalgia series this week, which should be quite fun. You know, we talked about it in a previous tech talk. Someone actually came up with the idea, and it's a really cool one. So why not? You know, why not go through with it? So yeah, I think it'd be really cool to do that, and also it just kind of shows how a lot of these things were just planned for a very long time. It's pretty awesome. So you may get your walkers, it may be something else. Last year the mobile infantry stuff kind of came out of nowhere, and to be honest, for me it was pretty bad. But like, you know, it's I have this issue with the fact that I don't have the best ping in War Thunder, and also at the same time I'm not exactly great at shooting all the time because I'm a bit geriatric a lot when it comes to video games. So usually I'm not a huge fan of things that move quickly and also rely on being synced with the server. So yeah, not too good. Hopefully hopefully this year will be a bit better, at least for me personally. And I know a lot of people enjoyed the last event. Hopefully this new event isn't a month long. That's also another one, right? Because a month-long event doing the same thing every other day, I mean, we've already seen it with this event cycle. They've shortened it to like 2 or 3 weeks mostly for these higher tier ones, and I'm guessing the lower tier ones are going to be, you know, not as high, and I think that's probably a better idea, just in general. What if they added walkers in the regular tech tree? Nah, not a huge fan of that. I've always liked the idea of the whole historical stuff, and for me, like, those really like kind of would more take the piss than anything else. You know, like I'm generally okay with like, you know, stuff which is a bit arealistic, but I feel like at that point it should be better to have like its own like game at that point. Gaijin said minimum 12 days. Yeah, they did, but I don't know if that applies to April Fool's vehicles or not, or April Fool's events, or if that's just for the standard events that they've been doing, right? So it's kind of hard to tell with that stuff what they've decided to do or what the plans are. Well, I mean, I don't even know if that'll be like kind of affected, right? Like it might just be exactly the same as what we've seen previously. Who knows, I think is the way to put it, and we'll find out. So we have Away With You, Valbega. Hey Tech, glad to hear my oversimplified history lesson was enjoyable. Stuff like that I always find fun, you know. There's a reason why a lot of those YouTube channels are pretty, what's the word? Like large channels. Sadly, I couldn't go into detail mostly because YouTube seems to have a problem with certain words, phrases, and concepts, even when they're for educational purposes. Oh, massively, yeah. Yeah, I've run into the same issue, actually. Like, even using the word bomb or things like that, it's, yeah. One of the things that's hilarious is because War Thunder is a game about combat and also has war in the title. It means that the CPM and also just a lot of other factors are a lot less for War Thunder compared to other things. They've definitely lessened that over the years, which is nice, but it's just kind of funny. I like it's some systems are as simplistic as that in this world, which is, you know, is kind of sad to see. Let's see. The best example for that is the YouTube channel that does World War II week by week, because they always have to re-upload certain episodes, especially the ones about the gamer crimes committed by everyone, but especially the no-no Germans and the Japanese empires. Yeah, if you want to make stuff like that, like it honestly is probably better to do it like a subscription model if you're able to. Like the way that Channel 5 does it, have you seen how Channel 5 News does it? I kind of like it, where so basically they upload the episode on YouTube of like the one which doesn't have all of that stuff and everything else is like blurred out in it. And then what they do is they basically upload the non-doctored version on their Patreon. And, you know, Patreon is one of those sites which, you know, it's had its issues in the past, especially like skew whiffing people. Basically, you know, like screwing with certain political ideologies and all that stuff, and, you know, basically making it so certain areas are kind of looked after and others aren't, but welcome to the internet, I suppose. And but the fact that, you know, they offer a situation like that, I think is pretty cool. And I think it obviously works well for the Channel 5 guys, because, you know, they're able to basically do like the double, right? So you upload the one on the YouTube channel, and you're like, hey, look at this, you know, we've you can see this, but if you want to see the true thing, you can go, you know, subscribe here and get it for however many. Like, it works well, and it means that both products are able to exist. It would be nice if, you know, the product on YouTube could just exist, but yeah, we don't live in a time where advertisers are as friendly. You can't even have gambling sponsorships and stuff on YouTube, which is quite funny, especially with the massive explosion over here of sports gambling, which is a blight on this world. Which is very troublesome and sad, since we're already at a time where we seem to recreate certain aspects of the past. Nobody acknowledges that, since now we use a different boot to walk the same road. The strange YouTube behavior also leads to incomplete information. There's some people will start making idols out of those people misunderstood by the rest. Yeah, they already do that, like as you said, but I'm not really too bothered about that stuff, because a lot of that stuff is more flash in the pan. What I'm more worried about is the kids stuff that happens not just on YouTube but also on Twitch and Kick and places like that. Like, if you have a look at specific audiences and their age and you see what they're watching, it's really all over the place. Like, it's not good at all. But one of the major things to kind of go through and to kind of think about is more about all of these systems are kind of created by humans, so you have to kind of target the humans behind the decisions and work out why they're making those decisions. So instead of looking at what is promoted, you have to work out who is the person who's created that way of, you know, promotion, and then kind of go from there. And those people are very hard to find because they hide behind many different layers of different things. And whenever you actually nail one of them down, what ends up happening is they just turn around and go, oh, well, it's just the system, man, and that's just how the system works. And yeah, it's annoying as hell. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's one of the most annoying things in the world when people do that, but it is just how it goes. What you get when you have illiteracy, or when you have things not being properly taught, it usually ends up in, you know, obviously ideas getting skewed. And then, since it's much easier to deal with extremism than it is to deal with general ideas, you just label everything extremist and then you go from there. Or the people who are looking into that stuff can't get concrete information, so therefore they just get more extreme as they go along, because if it's much easier to paint something as bad if you only show the radicals of something instead of showing all the rest. But yeah, we could go into this for like hours. I've seen it, like, I saw it at university a lot. One of the big ones that I remember at university, and this kind of was the first one. There was two moments at university which kind of did my head in when it came to like those ideas and how they all work. The first one was the idea of oppression, and oppression is one of those things that's very important to look into. And it's, you know, I do agree with the whole like representation thing and everything like that, but it's the way that it's done nowadays is very, 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 at least in Canada and other places, it's very superficial. So one of the easiest ways of classifying people is by their race or by where they're from. But by classifying them in this way, usually it doesn't kind of paint the whole picture, because every every place where somebody's from usually has some kind of hierarchical structure. So if you treat everybody the same, or if you set a bunch of laws which is supposed to benefit a specific set of people based on those simple characteristics, what ends up happening is you actually create an even larger gap between the ones who are, who are doing well and the ones who aren't doing well. And it's just a pain, and I see it all the time over here. And this led to something that was kind of interesting, at least for me, where there was an interesting conversation I had with a kind of like a culture student or a sociology student, whatever you want to call them, basically a degree that doesn't really interest me. And she was trying to work out if I was where on the totem pole I was allowed to be in her mind. Which was a fascinating thought, because for me, I just never think of stuff in that way. Hey Noah, hey Sneaky, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Like the idea that you can just look at somebody, look at their like base attributes, and then go from there, and just like decide, okay, that's what they're like. Very odd to me, and really, really didn't enjoy that. And because I'm an immigrant, right? But I'm also white. So for her, it was very hard for her to understand in her own head, like how at least I fit into these kind of places. So it's just a mess. Like at the end of the day, like how all that stuff works. The other one was there was a bunch of anti-hate campaigns that were set up. And one of them, at least in the Canadian area, and it actually gets brought up quite a lot, is in the Canadian area, when I was at university, there was these things where you would have these posters which said, Jake has been drinking, Janet has been drinking, they have sex, Janet couldn't consent. So the idea was, or at least the unspoken part was, it didn't matter what Jake was, whether he was sober, whether he was drunk, that didn't matter. It was the fact that Janet wasn't. And it was very, very, It was very, very bad at the time, because people were like, well, you're basically just saying that one side is allowed agency and the other one isn't. It was very weird, right? And that whole campaign was very odd, seeing that set up. And then the other one was the anti kind of hate campaigns, which were very weird. So they would set up these groups, and this happened a lot at many different universities, at least that I saw. And it happened at Wellington. I remember it happened at Toronto. It happened at Calgary. I don't know if it happened in SFU or anything like that, but they set up these groups which were basically like hate watch. So like you'd have a panel of people. What they would do is they would make sure that nobody would do anything bad. Like an anti-hate crime group, okay? And, from like the outset, that sounds great. The problem with it, and what ended up happening with it, is a lot of these groups just didn't find anything. Because it turns out most people, especially at a university level, aren't going to be, are not going to be, filled with, aggression or hatred or anything towards that stuff. Or if they are, they ain't going to be open about it, which is why a lot of higher societies are kind of like that, but you just don't hear about it because they're very secluded, right? So what ended up happening, at least at my university and others, there was like really weird things happening. Like there was one where they used the no symbol from good old Germany, and they, there's pictures of it, and it was like, hey, somebody's done this, we need to find them. Somebody is, obviously a right wing whatever. And they did this whole investigation to find out who it was. And it turned out it was one of the people who was on the board of the bloody anti-hate campaign. And the reason why they were doing it is because they wanted to prove that something was busted. And so, like, these types of, like, experiences, like, all three of those, or maybe four, depending on how you see it, it just warped my head so much when it comes to all of these, like, different things on how, like, not what the actual goal is, or not what people kind of strive for, but the actual method that goes ahead and how people get to the logical conclusion that they get to. And I see it all the time online, unfortunately, because usually the people who are in positions to change that stuff were in institutions like that, so it's not really a surprise. The Marshal, for example, wasn't just a military man who just wanted to save his country and had to sign a deal with the devil, but instead he was of the same mind about the Jewish people. The only difference was that he wanted them deported and their fortunes confiscated. Yeah, standard. Right, let's do this. Thus, he didn't have that much of a problem sending trains after a while, and the only reason he got rid of the Iron Guard is because they were way too radical even for him. Those that escaped ran to no-no Germany, but the Marshal was too much of an asset, an honourable man, unless you're Jewish, for the Austrian painter to depose. We're talking about Hungary during the Second World War, by the way. Knowing all of the above, is it any wonder that we have people that unironically see the Second World War as just another war all over the world? Funnily enough, how this also results in people asking for the Desert Fox to be added in the game, since he was just another general. Yeah, but he was one of the good. He was one of the good baddies. So yeah, it's the thing about the Second World War, right? So the massive difference between the First World War and the Second World War was the good versus evil dynamic. Okay, so the First World War was a dick measuring contest between a family, right? It was a dick measuring contest between cousins from Germany, Britain, and also Russia, right? And it got out of hand because of the German dude, right? And because, of course, Otto von Bismarck decided to wash his hands with everything. And that led a lot of people of the lower echelons to be killed, right? And also, at least in Britain's area, what ended up happening is a lot of those people who ended up dying and ended up being in very negative situations after the war, if they didn't die, were just left to basically be, have to deal with their own demons. It was awful. If you actually look into the history of all the thing, it's crap. It's terrible. In the Second World War, it is very much a fight versus good and evil. It is this set of people over here want to eradicate these others because they believe they're superior, right? And so it isn't just a simple land grab, or it isn't just a simple this or that. It is straight up, these people over here need to disappear because they're the reason why everything is screwed in the world, right? So it's a very easy good versus evil dynamic, right? Because you have the people who don't want to eradicate certain sets of people and also expand themselves because they believe that they are superior compared to everything else. And then you have the people who don't feel like that, right? So that's why you get a lot of games, and you get a lot of games about World War II, and you get a lot of very simple good versus evil dynamics. Because if you boil down World War II, that's what it was. It was a very simple dynamic. There wasn't anything, that was massively crazy about it. And yes, people talk about nowadays the idea that many of the good side didn't live by our modern day values or didn't believe in the modern day values. But at the core of it, it is very simple. And that is why it's so easy to tell stories about it. And yeah, it also means that a lot of people, if not 99 to 100% of the people who were associated with the bad side, are indeed the baddies, right? And it isn't, and also were parts of the parties that were, dealing with this stuff, and also at the same time were just horrific to pretty much everything that's around. So yeah, the idea that somebody like Rommel even, Rommel, once again, part of the National Socialist Party since the mid-30s, which people just seem to forget about. Yeah, he was able in North Africa to get some victories. Yeah, he was able to follow Manstein. Was it Manstein's blitzkrieg tactics? Yeah, he was able to be one of the only Germans to work out where the Allied forces were going to invade. Yada, yada, yada. He was still a Nazi. Please don't cherry coat these things at the end of the day. Just because he was involved in a plot to, you know, kill Hitler in, what was it, 1943 or 44, doesn't mean he had a decade previously following him and adhering to him and admiring him, right? Like, it's nuts, man. But yeah, he was just the guy with the cool hat, so it's all good. It's very tough to have conversations about that stuff, because you always get people saying, or doing the whole like blurred lines thing, right? Oh, that's another funny one. So blurred lines, listen to the blurred lines song. So there's a song called Blurred Lines. It came out like 5-10 years ago. Got to #1 on the charts. Actually listen to the lyrics. Crazy. Just straight up a song about rape. Like, it's nuts. But it's very hard to have these conversations, because you get what I see as like grey men, where they just come in and they go, well, it's a video game, or well, was it really that bad? And then you show them how bad it was, and then they go, well, I'm sure the history books are wrong. Or, well, you know, history written by the victor, therefore they're going to paint it bad. No, it was just that bad, right? Like, and it's just so annoying to deal with, which is why I just don't get involved in those discussions anymore. Because people go through specific periods of time. Like, I honestly think when you're younger, a lot of the things that you do is you question a lot of the beliefs that are put forward by the people who are above you, which is fantastic. That's what you should do. But there has to be a point where you turn around and you actually realize a lot of the things that you're looking into are either one-sided or are, like, let's say, like an 80-20 split. They're not a 50-50 split. And that is generally when you start working on your core beliefs and working out what's true or what's not. Or you become David Irving, who's just an old, bitter dude who can't read, right? Which happens, unfortunately, to an increasingly amount of people nowadays who are also, at the same time, allowed to have access to the internet and do ridiculous things, right? Hey, Grandma Zoo, nice to see you. Sorry. My vehicle is bobbing up and down here. Yeah, the Whitley. One day we'll get the Whitley. I'm very looking forward to the Whitley whenever it comes. But yeah, it's as simple as that, and you know, I don't think it's too much of a big issue nowadays. I think a lot of it is very much overblown, especially when you compare the internet to what is seen as real life. But we are going to get to a point where the internet is real life, because generations are being brought up onto it. So we'll see what goes on. Like, maybe in like 20 or 30 years, we're going to start seeing some crazy stuff. Or, you know, once again, the middle generations right now, like the 40s to 60s, aren't really allowed to do anything. So that's going to be interesting when they're actually allowed to do stuff instead of just wander about. Oh well, that's another story for another time. So yeah. Let's see. Thank you for the subscription, Donny B. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. My food is too spicy. I'm currently crying from hotness. Oh dear. Good old food. I like certain spicy foods. It really depends on how I feel at the time. Sometimes I can really dig them. Other times I'm not really that interested. I'd be fine with that issue. Like, I mean, I know World of Tanks does that, but usually when it comes to the detailed skins, what they do is they usually make them premiums, right? So that's how they've done it in the past. So they could just do that again. Like, don't see why that couldn't be a thing. They could just set it up. Hey, Holy Rune, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Oh shit. Should probably turn this boy around. It's just miles away. There we go. This is from Darren Webb. A spoonful of mustard will stop the hiccups. Who's going around having spoonfuls of mustard, man? What? What are you doing? Like the powdered stuff? The Coleman's? No, no. That's ridiculous. Even the liquid stuff. I'm alright, thanks. No, I've heard of all the different remedies, like holding the breath, you know, drinking, deep breaths, all that stuff. For me, it just goes away if I stop thinking about it, so I just stop thinking about it. Like that's usually the way it goes. Like I'll have like, you know, 4 minutes of just and then everything's good. It's like a seal clapping, you know. Maybe the airborne one? The airborne mustard? Oh, you like the YouTuber or whatever? Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, I feel like a lot of those remedies are just straight up old wives' tales, or people where it's like it's worked once for them and they're like, oh yeah, that's what it is, you know? But yeah, for me, all I have to do is just chill, and it goes away after like 5 minutes. Mustard gas? I mean, yeah, mustard gas would definitely cure hiccups. It will cure a few other things as well, and also cause a few things, but you know. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Like that's how we do things. Esther is here and the supermarket is a battlefield. Woo! Let's go. Get the trolleys running. So then we have TK, who did the timestamps this time, which is really kind of him. So thank you to TK for doing those. And as I've said previously, if you want to do the timestamps, you know, I can give you some free games, or you know, we can sort something out when it comes to monetary stuff. Like, so if anybody wants to do it, you know, the world is your oyster if you want to. So thank you, TK. Thank you for doing those this time. It's very kind of you. So we have Elex. Hi, TEC. Since Denmark, Norway are inevitably coming to the Swedish tree. Well, they already kind of have, right? Are you looking forward to having 5 Leopard 2A4s in one tree? Well, it's going to happen, innit? Like, I mean, we think about how many Abramses are in the American tree, or how many Challengers we have in the British tree. This is just what happens. Like at the end of the day, as long as they make it so the RP between them is not too different, and you know they're easier to grind the more that they add. Oh, Easter, fair enough. Easter, I forgot about Easter. Then I'm fine with it in general. So at the end of the day, like everybody in Europe seems to use Leopards. I think what they'll do is they might just like miss out that vehicle at some point. So instead of like adding it to everything, they'll just instead just like leave it out and just add in more stuff. Or they might just like give camos to specific vehicles, because you know lineup fillers are all well and good, but this is actually something we have been actually chatting about a little bit. It's getting to a point now where there are a lot of vehicles that are or just don't have. There's not really a necessity to like grind them, because there's just better versions of them in tech trees, or there's just like, you know, there's already vehicles in other lines which are just kind of better than them, so they're just filler vehicles. I feel like now with like stuff like the T-72M, the T-72A, the Leopard 2s, and a lot of other ones, it wouldn't actually be a terrible idea doing some kind of system where maybe if you finish researching one in one tech tree, it gives you like a bonus to research another one in a different tech tree. They still haven't added that system, right? So they're still probably working out how to do that. They could add like other stuff around, like they could add like, as I said, you get a bonus, or maybe you unlock some modifications. If you unlock modifications on one vehicle in one tree, maybe it unlocks them for the other one, so all you have to do is like research it and then you get it spaded, or at least you get like the similar modifications. Like there's a bunch of stuff that they could do. Hey Jay, nice to see you, man. Doing well. Hopefully you're doing good. So yeah, like all that stuff could be completely fine. Because you know, there's over 2,000 vehicles in the game. Way over 2,000 nowadays, and we're at a point where, you know, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is, what is going to happen is you're going to have a problem in the future where people are just not going to want to grind different tech trees. We already see it. You know, we see it quite a lot of the time. So I think for me personally, just adding in some kind of system, and I think that's what they're kind of working on right now. You know how last year they had in their setup that that's what they were gonna do. Like they were gonna throw in all of these different like little like bonuses to research stuff. Like they threw in a few of them, which is good. But for me, I feel like now it may be worth kind of expanding it more. Even after like basically a year when they started doing those changes, we really are kind of having, you know, areas which is a bit crazy. Let's just do this. Sorry, I just have to move something for 2 seconds. There we go. Nice. Okay, that's that done. Personally, I would suggest if we had a system that would folder all the national skins and different voice lines inside one vehicle, so we can get rid of the not necessarily copy-paste, but dupes inside tech trees, like the Finnish Leopard 2A4 and the Swedish SDR V121. I mean, that system would be fine, but the problem is, like, so I do want people to have proper lineups. You know, I don't want people to have... I don't want people to just be stuck with like 1 or 2 or 3 vehicles, right? I would much prefer if they actually had a bunch of stuff that they could rely on. So that's the thing. I'm kind of fine with them having all the Challenger 2s. I'm kind of fine with them having all the Leopard 2s, or let's say like all the Spitfires, because first of all, people play arcade, and you know they need full lineups, and in realistic, you need full lineups too. So that stuff I'm fine with. It's just the fact that every time they add a vehicle, even though they do reduce RP needed, the total of that area just seems to increase every time. And I think there just needs to be a thought towards that idea, right? Even if it is just something very simple, like a 5% bonus if you have already researched a vehicle which is the same in a different tech tree. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be an acknowledgement that this is something that they're thinking about, and this is something that is on their mind. Because, you know, recently, over the last few years or so, they've been very, very good at kind of being like, okay, we see you chatting about this. Yeah, well, even to a fault sometimes, but they're like, yep, we see you chatting about this. We definitely understand why people are seeing it as a problem, and you know, this is kind of the steps we're going to take to try and fix it, right? They've done that quite a lot. So I don't think they need to remove these vehicles. I do think it's correct to have these vehicles just for the lineup's sake instead of anything else. I think it's much better to have, you know, proper lineups and stuff like that. I'm good. Been working at an auto parts house and just waiting out the snow the Canadians sent down to your area. Oh, fair enough. Chilling and having a bit of fun. I wish car mechanic stuff would have been fantastic for me to get into. I love stuff like that, but yeah, I went a very different route to that, unfortunately. Maybe in another life. Hey MJ, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully life is okay. It may also mean that people are a little bit less reliant on premiums, which I know doesn't really fit like the whole business model thing, but for me, I would rather people right now be a little bit less resentful and a bit more enjoying things, you know. Hey Parker, nice to see you. Doing well. Life's good. Got a very good workout in this morning. Got some good food. Had some eggs and bread and some overnight oats. So feeling pretty good. Feeling packed. Feeling stacked. Feeling ready to go. Feeling a bit crazy, but doing okay. But yeah, I don't like the idea of removing stuff, but I definitely like the idea of trying different things. And at least, as I said, just kind of acknowledging that there is a problem with it. I think that's the way to go. Then we have Ben Fechny. The April Fool's even has been running since December. They gave Britain competitive top tiers. Don't tell anybody that. You're not allowed to say that. Don't. Remember? Don't do that. Britain cannot be allowed to be good, okay? We have to keep the narrative going. British players are just superheroes and all of their vehicles are terrible, okay? That's the narrative. We're sticking to it. We've done it for years. No other narrative is allowed. No, 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 no. The Challenger 3P is trash, okay? Because it's still a Challenger, even though it's not, but it's still a Challenger. The Gripen is only good in the Swedish tree. It's not good in the British tree, okay? Hey, Tugnut, nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully everything's alright. Hopefully you're doing better than yesterday. Each day gets a little bit easier, man. It would be awesome if a multiplier was attached to it. Like, first is 100, second 95, reducing by 5% for each time you research the vehicle. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Like, imagine if you research the 2A4 in the German tree, then you research the 2A4 in the, in the Finnish tree, but it's like, you only need like 95% total research. Then, then let's say you do the 121, which is basically the same, then it's only 90%. Yeah, that'll be fine. Like, once again, it doesn't, just like a lot of the things that we've been talking about previously, it doesn't need to be a lot. It doesn't need to be like 50%, 60%, 80%. It just needs to be something. Something to give you a little bit of a go, to give it a go. And that's all. Just something that's slightly different from the norm. Something that just gives you kind of an idea of, okay, alright, let's give this a go. Instead of just, oh, I'm playing the same thing again. Time to play the same thing again. It's not fun, And it's something that I've become very, very cognizant of over the last few years, because they have added a lot of very similar stuff, and also that narrative that they've actually even put forward themselves, the idea that because most people only play, very specific tech trees, you can just add all that stuff to other tech trees and it doesn't matter. Well, mate, that's fine for most people, but I exist. The way that I play and the way that I do stuff exists. So, like, if you're gonna just go by majority stuff, go ahead. But it would be nice for a little bit of recognition on people who play in a different way, Hey Juan, nice to see you. Have I come out with my NCAA bracket? I don't even know what that means. National Championships of Athletic Arseholes? Like, I don't... I don't... Is that some kind of college thing in America? I got no idea, man. Oh, God. But yeah, I mean, Britain has some pretty good vehicles now, but as I said, you're not allowed to tell anybody. March Madness is the more common name. Once again, that does not help me. I have no idea what that means. Like, I'm guessing it's an American thing. Like, I don't know what that is. Alright, next question, which is from Insane Robert. Hello, Tech. Hello. Are you familiar with another old title from Gaijin called Star Conflict? Mm-hmm. This one is more of a sci-fi title focused mainly on starships, with gameplay focused on PvP as well as PvE. Yeah, it's been around for, I think, slightly longer than War Thunder, or slightly less time than War Thunder. The game itself seems, pretty decent at what it does. One of the hilarious things about Star Conflict is actually some of the trailers that they have. Because whoever voiced them back in the day is just funny to listen to, and not funny in a a good way, more funny in a how did this guy get this job kind of way, because he just sounds like not a person you want voice acting things. But generally, yeah, I mean, I keep up with pretty much all of Gaijin's products. Age of Water I think is now actually at least close to out, so we might play that again. Played the beta and it was pretty fun, but I haven't played it on the new PC, so we can give that a go. And I'm gonna be chugging myself into Enlisted again probably next week. College basketball? Oh, who cares, man? I don't even care about normal NBA basketball. Who cares? Oh, well done. You won the genetic lottery. Good stuff. Oh, you're over 7 foot? Looks like you make $1 million. Nice. Like, uh, I kind of like sports which are not just, hi, here's this genetic freak who's able to just do everything because he's tall. Well done, you were born. Like, who cares? Like, there's that guy, that French dude in the NBA who came in, like, this year. He was, like, 18 or 19. Oh, he's 7'4". Oh, nice. So he just does really well because he's literally, you know, he's literally just a giant. Nice. And then what's going to happen in a few years? Somebody's just going to take him out, and then he's just going to be forgotten. Because when you're that size, you are so brittle, basically you're just going to fall apart. Cool. Glad that we can glad that we can celebrate that, you know. Yeah, he's a giant and is able to move his arms and isn't in constant pain thanks to painkillers. Nice. MVP. Like, I don't know. I find it very very hard to watch basketball, and I find it very hard to care about basketball. The NFL, though, even though that's, you know, a bunch of like crazy genetic guys too, I do find that more enjoyable, and I also find hockey a lot more enjoyable, you know? You know. That's why I prefer stuff like, well, rugby's a lot less like it nowadays, but rugby used to be a lot more about, you know, no matter what size you were, you could kind of fit in anything, but unfortunately now that's not the case. A lot of the rugby players are all the same breed. They're all just built like, you know, just massive dudes, and yeah, because the game became more professional, so now everybody lifts. But yeah, in other sports like cricket and things, it isn't just about you just being some massive lanky dude. It's like, it honestly is just like, yeah, well done for winning the genetic lottery. Okay, cool, nice. Oh, and now these guys have a team of genetic lottery guys, and the other team has a team of genetic lottery guys, and it's whoever just like trains the hardest or whoever cares like the most. Okay, cool, who cares? Oh, some sports are fun, and some esports are alright. I'm not bothered about sport. Like, I find baseball way more interesting than stuff like basketball. Because in baseball, once again, like, it isn't just about, like, the genetics isn't something like, you know, at least 50% of what you're doing. I'd say basketball, like, if you don't have the genetics, you're just screwed already. So there's not even any point in even thinking about it, right? Which sucks. Very hard to, what's the word? Very hard to relate, I think is probably the word I'm looking for there. Let's see. The title also has a big percentage of player-based presence on PvE, as well as some of its gameplay methods are well done, while other areas could do some additional effort to make it more entertaining and balanced. Do you think they could take some lessons from this game towards War Thunder, if they decide to implement a fully fledged PvE mode? Compared to what seems like a lazy wave swamming mode we currently have today? Or is it less likely, since War Thunder vehicles are supposed to have realistic damage models, compared to Star Conflict, where every model is based on HP and shield points? I think it's a lot harder to do than obviously the Star Conflict stuff. They could do it in War Thunder if they wanted to, but the problem is, if you add in a PvE mode, which is, you know, very, you know, set up and there's a lot to it and stuff, what actually ends up happening is it kills the PvP. This is something that we've seen a lot in many different games, especially with specific audiences. What ends up happening is if you create an easier way to grind compared to the standard like PvP stuff, then people will just flock to that, and then it will kill the other game modes, because, you know, at the end of the day, people can only focus on so many things at once, and they're gonna take the path of least resistance. That's why you get a massive spike in simulator players during air events, because they just want to grind it and don't care in their PvE areas. So if you want to see what War Thunder would become like, you already have an example in good old simulator. So yeah, not too fun, and I don't find that really that interesting. Naval was like that for a long time, and it was incredibly boring. And also, the real question would be with War Thunder is, could they get an actual useful AI? Which, you know, one of the big things about Enlisted in general was that it was something that could have probably done that, you know, in the past, and kind of did do that in the past pretty well, and still does it to this day. Like, they have a very competent AI model, which, you know, can work pretty good. The thing about it though, like the thing about not just Star Conflict, but all of like the Gaijin properties, they do work together. So when you see something from let's say one of the properties, it's not a surprise to see it in another one. The teams, the way that Gaijin is set up is it's small teams that work on their individual projects, and then you have leads who kind of like bring them all together to put stuff in, right? That's how they do things. They actually have a video, I think, on their main website, which kind of goes through this and how they actually work, and it's very different from a lot of companies. And you know, teams will share ideas between themselves. The Enlisted development, for example, is probably the easiest thing to kind of put towards it. So like at least the visual models in Enlisted are very similar to the War Thunder models. When it comes to their ground vehicles, there isn't a single vehicle in Enlisted that isn't in War Thunder. The difference is the resolution of the vehicles in Enlisted are a lot higher. The other thing to also know about Enlisted compared to War Thunder is the actual playable way. The way that the vehicles control is different, even if the models themselves are the same, which is, you know, kind of interesting to see. One of the things for me that's actually kind of interesting about Enlisted is they started to add stuff to the game, and it was kind of obvious that it was going to come to War Thunder at some point. So, for example, they started adding stuff such as the what is the word I'm looking for? They added a lot of stuff, which was like, you know, like the ground. You remember like the ground stuff where the ground would kind of break, or it would nothing would really happen with it. Like it would just kind of be it would create, when a bomb went off, it would create a crater, right? So that actually came to Enlisted first, like terrain deformation in that way. And then what they ended up doing is bringing it over to War Thunder. So a lot of the stuff the teams actually worked on at the same time and moved on from there, which is kind of cool. Yeah, the deformation and a bunch of other stuff. So the teams already work together. The only question is how much they work together, and how much is, you know, them just kind of pittering about and trying things or moving stuff about. So the PvE side of War Thunder has a lot of potential, and they've done a lot of kind of tests to see how it will go in the past. It is something which could easily be quite revolutionary, but I honestly think it would be better in more kind of campaign settings instead of just like single missions, or, you know, here's a place, you got to defend it. Yeah, go defend it. Woo, you know. I don't think that's as fun as other things that would go around the place. So, yeah. I need to look more into Star Citizen. I've never really been into space combat, unless it's on like a 4x scale, because it just seems kind of dull, if I'm honest. It's just all about timing, right? Like when I played Space Crew, like that game was so easy to me because it was just about timing specific abilities. So like when somebody came in, okay, reinforce shields, and then once you've reinforced shields, obviously use the guns. Okay, when the shields are down, you hit the invisible, or you use the cloaking device so nothing can hit you, and then you wait for your shields to charge up. Then, you know, you turn up and you do a little bit more damage, and then you put your shields on full again, and then you just keep switching over and over again. And since there was nothing in that game that could penetrate shields, so it had to go through shields, it was pretty simple, you know. It was kind of silly. But yeah, I'd have to give Star Conflict to go through it. It'd be cool to see some kind of PvE stuff in War Thunder, but I've always liked the idea of little like DLC campaigns or, you know, little things like that to be able to just have a bit of fun with. Nothing too crazy. Then we have MJ. Hey Tech, what are your thoughts on the PTZ-89? Some people call it the Chinese Object 120 with a faster reload. Well, some people are dumb as bricks. The vehicle itself is a lot less survivable than the Object 120 and a lot less mobile, and also has a terrible gun depression, but I'm pretty sure the 120 does too. The big thing about it is honestly the fact that it is like a pretty fun vehicle, and I do enjoy it quite a lot, and it is better than the 120. But it can be frustrating to use because of the reload on the vehicle. Not the reload. Because of the lumbering nature of it, and also the gun depression. But I don't think it's a bad vehicle. I think it's okay. It works well. I understand the comparisons to the 120 because it looks the same, but they are very different vehicles on how they play. Mainly because of what they face and also, you know, the general use of them. Comparisons like that are not usually very good. Then we have Kakaprut. Oh god, didn't expect the hiccups. Yeah, it's the devil inside that's trying to get out. Instead, usually I just get it out by screaming, but sometimes it has to come out in hiccups. You know, just has to start flying around the place and not really doing too much. The hiccups are what the hiccups are. Simple as. So then we have Stay Lifted. The new damage model equals nice. If you screw your torpedo drop, become the torpedo. I love it. Kamikaze is an option now. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but I mean, they reverted pretty much everything, so it's just how it is. The simple fact is they decided to they have decided that we're back to basically the old method, which is fine, but you know, it's just kind of dull. I wish it's good to spice things up now and again. One of the big issues with Naval is they kept changing the damage models of the vehicles instead of like the shells themselves, so it would just kind of create like a weird, it would create kind of a weird sound. But I think right now, like playing a lot of these like 5.7 vehicles, like these light cruisers / heavy cruisers, I don't know, it's kind of boring. You either get beasted by something that just has better guns than you, such as the American vehicles, or you face stuff you can't really do any damage to. If you get at your tier or up tiered, if you get down tiered, you just you make everybody regret existing. So I don't know, it just kind of sucks. like this Southampton, right? If I go up against a 6.0 American or Soviet cruiser, I just die, right? Because it's just better than me in every way, so I can't outtrade it if the person's playing properly. Like, if you remove, like, skill, remove experience, all that stuff, you just get owned. It's not even close. But if you are, let's say, in that vehicle and then you face a 6.3 battleship or battlecruiser, it's going to be a bit of a pain to deal with. But in the system they brought in, it wasn't necessarily the case. It was actually, you know, quite relaxing, and you just hump a bunch of damage and see what will go on. But yeah, not allowed, I suppose. Not allowed at all. Ooh. So then we have Pigstick. The Russian test flight radio comms are in Chinese. Oh no, they're hiding in the trees. That's kind of weird. I like the fact that in the Soviet one, there is actually a train that flies around the lower tier. The lower tier one. I've always liked that. I think it's a nice little touch. It would be cool if they could add more stuff like that. you know, in the future. Hey, Vanko Babanko. They seem to, like, the German one, like, the high-tier one, they added some, like, naval vehicles. It's as if, like, every update, whoever... whoever's, like, doing, like, the test drives or whatever, they just, like, add, like, one thing. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if they find it, like, fun or if they enjoy doing it, but it's so weird. Like, why not just have like an update where they revolutionize that stuff? I suppose they did in Ground, where they made they made that new test drive, which I think is a pretty good test drive. And there was a person who made one which goes from like hangar to test drive, which is basically how they do it in Crossout, which is another Gaijin property. I've always liked that one too, but I think that might change based on how the hangar works, you know, because of the customizability. But yeah, I've always said right now the hangar and the test drive has some of the most potential in the game for growth. So I'm hoping that at some point that is kind of realized. And I'm sure there are people working on it. I'm sure there are people like looking at that stuff because, you know, you always get to see things like that. Where the hell did I even get shot from? So yeah. It'll be cool to see a lot of that stuff, and I'm sure we will. So we have Shadow Derper. I need my OI already. Well, we've got the TOG now. And the TOG didn't cause too much of a ripple. And so you never know. They've also added in the overpressure mechanics, so that will work in the favor of those types of vehicles. So once again, you never know. Who knows? There's a chance. They're eventually going to run out of iconic Second World War random mid-tier premiums they could do for anniversary stuff. So, you know, all you gotta do is wait and chill, and things will pop up as they always do. Never say never is the motto of the day. Yesterday I shredded an Akibono with my K2. Akibono got 0% and refused to die. Repaired completely and took about 50% more damage. I've had a lot of vehicles that have sat on that amount of damage for a while, like 0, and I feel like it might just be a bug. Because like, those vehicles that I dealt with where they were stuck on 0% for 10 minutes. And maybe like nobody shot them in that time, or maybe I didn't hit them during that time, or maybe there was a thing like that, but yeah, it seems kind of nuts. The problem for me with the OI stuff is not really if it existed or not, because, you know, the issue is just getting information on it. One of the problems with Japanese vehicles in general is whenever you add it in, you know there is going to be a backlash no matter what you do with it, because first of all you're going to get the backlash of other people, other nation mains saying, well, why can't we get our things if they get the weird stuff? And then also you're going to get those absolutely crazy people who, you know, I've had to deal with over the years, who think that they know exactly what things are supposed to be and how they worked in real life, even though nobody else knows. For some reason, they know in their head, right? So it's just one of those things that you have to contend with. That's not very fun. But one day it'll come, you know. It's one of those vehicles that is very iconic, even for the wrong reasons. It's basically, if we think about it, the only reason people care about the OI is just it's because it's so stupid and so outrageous of an idea. That's literally it. It's just like why people love like the German super heavies too. They're just stupid, and they just, if you actually think for like 2 seconds why they made them, or why they even, you know, proposed to make them, the whole idea behind them is completely idiotic and completely dumb compared to where the actual world was going. But yeah, people like them because they look funny, so what can you do? You want to play, Bryce? We can squad up, but I'll be obviously doing the thing. How is this guy spotted me? That is kind of ridiculous, actually. So then we have Pragun Kumar. There we go. Namaste Tech. Namaste. Asha Hai Ki Ap Take Ho. Hope you're doing well in Hindi. Ooh. We need to get Freeman on. Freeman speaks Punjabi, which I know is not very similar to Hindi. One of the things I do like a lot about the Indian languages is like, so I watch a lot of like cricket, right? And I watch the IPL, and obviously there's quite a large Indian community over here, mainly from Punjab, but also other areas. The interesting thing is they all pretty much all of the languages in India that I've heard, they all have what's the word? They all have English words just like strewn through them. So basically you'll just hear like a bunch of that language's words, and then they fill them in with English words, because during the time where those things were invented, they just used the English words. So it's kind of funny just like hearing a sentence, and you can pick out one word where it's like, oh, you know, that's what they're talking about. Kind of cool. Which tree should I play on Naval? I'm thinking USSR, but the torpedoes are very weak, as I heard of. If you want strong torpedoes, especially for destroyers, Japan is the way to go. But if you're looking for blue water, you can't really beat America. America is very strong. They have the best destroyers in the game. They have the best light cruisers. They have probably not the best heavy cruisers, but they're still pretty good. They don't have the best battleships and also battle cruisers, but that's basically because of artificial artificial stuff. They will eventually. It's just when they decide to add them, which is the crazy thing, right? But yeah, should be fun. I would go for America. They just have a good mix of everything. If you're looking at coastal, though, I think coastal-wise, you probably have a better go with USSR or Germany. Obviously, Britain's one is a bit all over the place, which isn't too great. But you know, for blue water, I'm pretty sure I would just say America. Like there really isn't too much of a competition. Like the vast majority you'll see on each team for me are American, just because they're the best, and they're very easy to use too. A lot of their destroyers have 5-inch guns, which have a very good fire rate. They also have HE, HEVT, and AP, so they have everything you need. And also they have some anti-fragmentation armor, which is really annoying, because it means that their HE does more damage to you than your HE does to them, because their armor stops them. So always enjoyable, just as a general thing. So yeah, that's not too fun. I would say in general you could have pretty much fun with any of the general tech trees. Like I think I've had fun in pretty much all of them. The only one which has been really tough blue water wise is Italy. Italy has like a few vehicles which are okay, but most of them are just not, and it's just a little bit annoying to play. This Atlanta has like a broken X-ray. Do you see that? That looks kind of odd, especially since I've had a bunch of Atlantas which haven't had broken X-rays over the time. How weird. How very odd. Then we have Samurai Mansoor. Will the April Fools have that rocket boy? I doubt it. That one's just the Natter, you know, the good old Natter. A failed bomber interceptor from the good old Germans. The idea of the Natter was that you would shoot it up like a rocket, and it would have a bunch of rockets in its nose, and the pilot would shoot the rockets at the bombers, and then basically he would then bail out, parachute down, and the Natter would then parachute down, and they could put it back together, and then they could set it off going again. yeah, you can imagine a war-torn Germany with not exactly the best production standards or anything else, doing something like that. And yeah, it didn't really go too well, so not a great plan. Maybe next time. But yeah, the Natter could easily come into the game, but to be honest, once again, the Natter is what I would class as a hangar vehicle. So one that they could easily have to grind, and one that could easily come in to generally, you know, enhance the experience. But it's one which won't really do too much. It'll just chill there and, you know, not really be used. You don't want another BI situation where it's just annoying as hell to play against. Like, I don't know how else to put it. A very annoying vehicle, that one. Let's do this. Then we have a Goofer. I'm the guy who suggested the sub-tree last time. If an F101 is added, I don't see a place for it in the American tree other than with the Demon F3. Anything can go anywhere, man. Like, there is really a chance of, you know, pretty much anything turning up in any place. As long as there is some kind of connection, like as I said, number one rule is what fits in a tech tree which is fun and balanced. Then you can make up the stuff as you go along, right? So for example, like if you have a think about something like the F101, let's see if we can find a factor which would tie it to the American tree, apart from the fact that it's, you know, American. Like the good old voodoo. Like you could straight up just do that, right? Like so yeah, it doesn't, the idea of where stuff should be or the place of where it should be or anything like that, I don't think really matters too much. I think what matters more is the way that, you know, people see this stuff and the way it kind of should be, you know, looked at. Like I don't know what else they would really matter. They could easily put it somewhere else, right? And just kind of, you know, it could enjoy both, but who knows? Anything's kind of possible in that setup. I'm tossing and turning whether I want to go for the coupon upgrade or not. I could really just like power this out and get it done super quick if I wanted. I don't know. Hey Papa Stalin, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully life's good. But yeah, at the end of the day, they could add it in anywhere. It'd be nice to see it though. A good old Voodoo. It's just a cool name. So we have Sent Sam. Hey Tech, a few inquiries that are in the same vein if you don't mind. Sure. Firstly, given that Romania and Canada are at this point inevitabilities, in regard to sub-tree additions to Italy and UK respectively, how do you think they will be integrated into the trees? Will Romania be merged with the Hungarian line and Canada with South Africa, or will they be integrated generally into the other existing lines? Or will Gaijin create a new vehicle line for these machines? I find the latter option unlikely, given Gaijin's strange obstinance against adding too many vehicle lines into the existing UI structure. What option do you think would work best that you'd prefer? So for me, the way that I've always thought would be better to do these things is to, at the top of the screen, literally have just a separate tab which has access to one of the other nations. So you could, and then, now that they've added in the structure of you can research helicopters with ground vehicles, you could just have an option at the bottom where it's, okay, research Hungarian vehicles, and you just click the tick option, and there you go. Now you can now you can do that, right? I've always thought that was a much better idea than what we have now, which is, you know, clumping everything into 5 lines. The reason why they clump everything into 5 lines, by the way, is straight up because of UI, because of the fact that people don't use big enough monitors. So because people use lower resolutions and smaller size monitors, the 5 lines is the maximum you can go for, because the rest just don't fit. Okay, so so that's just how it goes. So if they added another line, that would mean that they'd have to put scroll bars in and do all this other stuff, which is something they just don't want to do. Whether it's because people won't look over there, or whether it will be because there's other issues, who knows? But they don't want to do that. So I would just do it as tabs on the tech tree. You know, you have aviation, you have ground, you have helicopters, you have blue water, you have coastal. Why don't instead you just label them as nation tabs and then go from there? Right? And then you can run them together and then just go from there. Second ground window for the same nation. But, well, it would be a different nation in that nation's tech tree. So, for example, you would take the Hungarian line, right? The Hungarian line of that tech tree, and you would just stick it in its own tab, and then you would make it so whenever you use a vehicle from that nation, you can then just get it for... then you could put all the research towards that nation. Like, the system already exists. They already do it, right? It's already there. So why not just use it? Why not just sort it out? Instead of, you know, not being able to put more lines in. The other thing is just to put the lines inside the tech trees themselves. Right? Like, just do that. And don't worry about having specific lines for specific nations, especially if it's just going to be a bunch of copy-paste stuff, right? The really cool thing about the South African part of the subtech tree is the fact that all those vehicles are unique. And then there is even unique ones which aren't in that line, you know, the ZA35 and the ZT3A2 and stuff like that. So it's just all about where it fits properly. I would like the tab thing. It would mean a major UI redesign. Oh well, you know, we're at that stage again anyway. You know, they changed the UI a lot, and already in this last update they added a ton of different stuff for the UI, which made it very different on how it sets up. So maybe that's something that they're working on kind of going forward. Sorry, I just throat's a bit dry. So yeah, I would be fine with stuff like that if they wanted to do that. I don't think adding an extra line would be a good idea, especially since one of the great things about War Thunder is that it is open to so many different people. The barrier of entry of War Thunder is very, very low, right? You need either an Xbox, a PlayStation, or a PC, and you need it to run... You need like even 10-year-old hardware to run it, right? Which is kind of nuts when you think about it. War Thunder is in itself is very, very kind to low-end stuff, and I don't want them to remove that. And since if you know when you do those like Steam kind of reviews and stuff like that, if you have a look at like the standard cards and you know what people are still running, let's see, Steam surveys, I think it is. Yeah, Steam hardware and software survey. So if you have a look at what people are using, the video card that is the highest percentage right now is the 3060, right? Which is a pretty new card. It's 6%, but yeah, it's also a pretty cheap card and a more like economical one for most people. The one that's used after that at 4% is the 1650. And then after that at 4% is the 2060. So once again, the other economical card of that like generation. And then after that is the 1060. And then you start getting into the 3070, the 3060 Ti, the 3050s and all of this stuff. The 1050 Ti's are 2.48%. But the thing is, a lot of people are still on that old technology, and therefore you have to make sure to accommodate them when it comes to resolution. And also right now, with things getting more expensive, at least in my area of the world, one thing that would be very bad for people is the idea that they now have to one thing that would be very bad for people would be stuff, you know, getting harder to get access to. So yeah, it's I just think a tabs thing would be the best, you know, and they could easily have like an area for that, and they've shown all of the different functions and the mechanics and stuff like that, all how all of that stuff would work. Like it's all able to work, so just do that. It's much easier. Secondly, what's your opinion on Gadget's commentary in regards to the self-imposed vehicle line UI restriction of 5 lines? Oh, well, there we go. Seems rather odd that the reasoning for restricting the UI to 5 lines is because it would overload the little gamer brains, or that it would make navigating the tree too complicated. Considering the level of an inspiring UI design structure that already exists within the game, that can range from the complex to the not entirely obvious. I don't know how making more than 5 lines in a vehicle tree would be problematic to play user experience, if you catch my drift. Right, so 5 years ago, TEC would agree with you. I would agree with you, okay? 5 years ago. And I still, to this day, will agree with you up to a point. The problem is, over the last 5 years, I've run into a lot of dumbasses in this space. And what has been a key, like, okay, I'll give you an example. Enlisted, right? Enlisted, okay? Free-to-play game, FPS, you know, barrier of entry, incredibly small. You have to download a launcher. That's it. It uses your pre-existing Guardian account. If you have a Guardian account, you know, super easy to do. It's 2 clicks of a button. That's it. There you go. You're done. The amount of people, when that game started, right, who were going, I won't play it if it's not on Steam. Why? Oh, well, because I have all my games in one place. What about the games that aren't on Steam? Oh, well, I just don't play them. What do you mean you melt? Like, what do you... What? That's a lot of games, especially a lot of old ones. Oh, you're just not going to touch them? Nah, because it's not on the Steam page. Oh, okay. Do you know there's a button in Steam where you can add games that aren't on Steam to your Steam client? You can do that. Oh, no, that's too hard. That's like 4 clicks. So, yeah, like, as somebody who's had to deal with people just flat out being insanely lazy and also just not reading things, not understanding things, and instead just listening to what somebody has said instead of what is in front of their eyes, or just doing some very, very, very simple things, I completely agree with the fact that they are worried that if they do expand it and they add like a scroll bar or they add whatever, there will be people who are like, where are all these vehicles? What's going on? Where did they come from? How does that guy have that? I don't know where that is in the game. Because you already have a ton of that in War Thunder with stuff that is easily accessible. Which is why stuff like adding the tutorials is very important. Why updating the wiki over the last few years was very important to do too. Because there are people who are just broken in the head and they cannot connect 2 dots together. Right? Because for them, it's an inconvenience, and they don't want to be inconvenienced at all. So you want the barrier of entry to be as low as possible, and that is unfortunately one of the ways that you do it. So yeah, I agree that personally shouldn't even be like a worry, but I've met too many people where it is a worry because they are so lazy to a point that they will not click 2 buttons. They won't do it. Like, the whole, like, it's just crazy to me, man. Like, I've had conversations with people about this stuff. It's like, okay, you know, like, there was one guy who didn't want to click 2 buttons to fire a missile. He didn't want to have the lock thing for the missile on an IR missile. He wanted the game to automatically do it, so it was locking all the time so he didn't have to click a button. Right? Like I don't even know how to deal with that one. You know? But these are the types of conversations I've heard and also been a part of. And the enlisted thing taught me a lot about maybe FPS brain rot or something brain rot. Right? Some kind of brain rot with whatever like the FPS community is doing. And, you know, making a UI as easy and as, you know, simple as possible should be something that is very much, you know, intertwined with these types of games. Because since they're accessible to all, you have to make sure that it is all accessible to all, or you're just going to have a bunch of melts who aren't going to know what's going on. And it's very frustrating to deal with people like that. So it's better to kind of nip it in the bud in the first place and just do the thing that they think is like correct, or the way that they do it, like literal just lowest common denominator stuff, so you don't have to deal with stuff like that. Or you could just do what most people do, is you do the lowest common denominator stuff and then you just ignore all the complaints, because it's impossible to, like, you know, satisfy that whole setup, right? So yeah, I think it is ridiculous that, you know, they can't just add in a scroll bar, or they can't make it, you know, feasible in that way. But at the same time, my experiences tell me differently with the common population. Just have a discussion with people about stuff that they do, and find out their triggers on what annoys them, right? And then focus on those, like, kind of triggers, and work out why they have those triggers when it comes to video games, right? And then you'll figure out why there's a lot of people who are just screwed in the head. So yeah, it's kind of nuts. So we have Oliver Bacon and the same time. Oh, you mean like the hiccup? Yeah. Yeah, it's, as I said, it's pretty bad. It doesn't happen as much anymore because I take so for me, I'm very like time orientated, right? So being very time orientated, I want to try and lower a lot of stuff as much as possible. And eating is one of those things which is actually super easy to kind of chill with, right? So yeah, it's one of those that's, you know, kind of cool, but also it means it leads to side effect. Thank you for the subscription, Sneaky Giraffe. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. Good old Poggies. Poogers. So we have Nice. Bro, you drink wine as me as me as well, as it seems a lot lately. I had one bottle of wine last week on Monday, and it just conked me. I don't actually drink a lot of alcohol. The last like month or so, I probably drank a lot more than I have done in a long time, and that's mainly the Prime subs are definitely a thing still. So at least for me, I usually don't drink too much. You know, coming from a household of good old alcoholism, it's usually not a great thing, but I don't have any issues with that side of things. But the last month or so, we've had a few nights where, like, you know, we've had people over or whatever, and, you know, it's sometimes you need to like have a few to try and open up people's mouths, because they just kind of sit there and don't really do too much. So yeah, it's a little bit odd. But yeah, I just had a few beers and some wine and stuff like that. But over the next month, I'm going to be working pretty hard, so there's not going to be too much of that stuff, you know. It should be fine. Ooh, Ayoba. Alright. Oh, Shit. I was wondering why I wasn't moving properly. Alright. I got stuck on this guy, so looks like I die. Well, that's a lovely sight, isn't it? There we go. Are they ever going to add the ability to add sandbags and concrete to tanks, or is that going to be like some off vehicles? Like some Sherman and that T-34 that was covered in concrete? I feel like they're probably going to do those as like event vehicles, right? I think it makes the most sense to do event vehicles around that. There's no use in like wasting opportunities like that in order just to add like a modification to stuff. They obviously added like tracks, Windketten, Ostketten, you know, up down on some of the armor values, but I feel like personally that's, you know, that's kind of a drop in the bucket compared to what people see. So I feel like, especially like the T-34 with concrete or the Stug with concrete or anything like that, that really to me would signal an event vehicle or a premium, you know. I don't think it would work too well as a standard one, just because of like the whole, you know, people wanting stuff to be slightly different. No point in limiting your options, right? Like think about camo nettings and stuff like that, right? Like people wanted them for years because, once again, historical, so therefore add them. So, which is a great argument for anything, by the way. And then what they did is they just took them and then they just made them premiums. Leopard 2A4, obviously the Abrams with the funny kit, the OES, and a few others. You know, the Type 90. So they gave you what you wanted, just as a as a premium vehicle. And you know that's what they do with ideas that people have high demand for. They make them event vehicles or premiums or anything like that. You know, that's how they do it. Then we have the only Len. Good old Len. Nice to see you, Len. Good day. Hopefully you're doing well. Two things. The ML and the Eland. One boy is a beefier engine and carries more ammo, and the other gets asymmetrical tires as armor and faster firing MG. Wowee. Wow. And the other you have to unlock everything in rank 4 and below just to get to 5. Whose great idea is this? And damn down arrows, or whatever people call them. It is a little bit weird, yeah. Like, there's a few vehicles like that. There's a lot of aviation vehicles I've been playing recently where that is like a common thread, unfortunately. Where it's like, well, in order to get to all of the useful things, you have to like grind out so much of the vehicle to do it, and it's just not fun, you know. It's not enjoyable. It takes too long, and yeah, it's just a bit of a pain. Unfortunately, I want things like that added because I want to make the tank more unique. Yeah, but if they add it to everybody, then everybody just runs it, right? And it doesn't really make it more unique, which is, you know, the issue. I'd like them to add more decorations, which are on that side of things, so people can, you know, change stuff as they go. But yeah, should be good. Anyway, story time. I've always preferred how a tank looks over anything, admiring their aesthetics over statistics. From history to games, two brothers of the Cold War, the infamous Leopard and the unwanted child, the AMX-30B, always the Leo was the favourite child. War Thunder had a time when the Leo was at 7.3, while the tanks had the 30B just chucked away, never to be given changes. While the tank's Blitz made the Leo the god of meds, and the AMX arguable nerf when it was the worst medium of all time. Oh shit. Oh, didn't do anything. We're good. Let's see. And in real life, the Leo was the more preferred tank over the AMX. I love the AMX, but both tanks look absolutely nice. Don't get me wrong, but the AMX is sleek and dazzling. I do agree the AMX looks better than the Leopard. I think that's true. Those angles, that turret design, the gun thermal shield, sheesh! At one point, the small community I was in, I was called the 30B dude, because I was obsessed with the thing. Playing and preferring it over the Leo more
though it was better at every single stat. I made it work and drove like a madman. My career win rate was at 64% of 1500 matches, and in War Thunder 57% of 600 matches. I made it clear that it was my tank, preached the gospel of the MX-30B, and bloody hell, there's a cult now. I'm thankful I went for the French line first, really forced me to learn all the unforgiving nature of French tanks. But yeah, I play exclusively by how a tank looks, and no one can stop me. Thanks as always, and have a good weekend. You too. Hopefully the weekend goes well for you. Yeah, it's you know, it's the cool thing about War Thunder, right? There's a bunch of people with a bunch of reasons why they play different stuff, and I find that super interesting actually. I think it's pretty cool. My main thing with the AMX is I actually have always really enjoyed the AMX as well. From an aesthetic point of view, but also from other points of view. So, for example, the reason why I really like the AMX 30B2 and the Brennus is because they have everything apart from the thermals. So they have the APDS. They have the APF-STS, sorry. They have the coaxial 20mm. They have the mobility. They have the thermals. They have absolutely everything. And because of that, they were always in quite a nice place to play. Nowadays, not so much, because that area got compressed to all hell. But when they were like A3 or, you know, around that BR, they were really, really fun. And I think overall, I always kind of championed the AMXs because I thought they were just really fun because of that fact. They didn't have everything because they didn't need everything because they had 99% of things, and other vehicles were lacking other stuff that they didn't have, which, you know, made them worse. So for me, I really enjoyed the AMX 30s, and I've always enjoyed the French tech tree in general, just because of, you know, the simple fact it's really fun to play. And it's nice to see other people enjoy it now. And yeah, they don't have the stabilizer, but they have everything else. It's really nice to see how a lot of people have enjoyed France over the last few years, and you know, there's all you can tell is by the BR changes that people have been giving it a go, because you know, it really was crazy good for the longest time. Like, and I'm so happy that I was able to grind through France and enjoy it when it was its strongest. And it's still very strong and it's still very fun, but you know, it's not massively up there in terms of, you know, as powerful as it used to be. Let's put it like that. But it's still very good. Yeah, it was just a bunch of battle cruisers, Bryce. There's not a lot to do about it. But nice to see there's other AMX 30 enjoyers and also other things. So yeah, quite nice. Good stuff in general. So then we have Type 10. Hey TEC. Hello. I like the IS-2, but in a 7.0 and above game, it's just not it. It's funny seeing an Abrams turret with an M60 hull. It'll always be goofy. Goofy troopy. I would like more maps in different parts of the world. More like somewhere in South America or Asia more. I think seeing more people play Japan and liking it is due to how fun it is. Still waiting on the F2 one day. It'll happen. That's all I have. Nice afternoon. The F2 will come. Just, you know, will take time. And yeah, I think the M61, the M6120 is very odd and weird. But that's fine, you know. We're allowed to have funny, weird things at the end of the day, and to have a bit of fun with it. I think in general, one of the crazy things to me about the new maps is they don't really have any rhyme or reason. So what do I mean by this? There's a lot of maps out there that look really cool. The North Holland map, I mean, I've played on it a few times in a few configurations. Jury's out, I think is the way to put it right now. But the interesting thing about the map is it has absolutely no connection to anything that was added in the update. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if instead of just like random maps all the time, we could actually have some connections? You know, maybe we could have some, you know, reasons for these maps going in instead of just, you know, them being added. You know, like when they added Vietnam and there was a bunch of There's a bunch of other stuff that was around, like, you know, maybe, like when, you know, they added, when they added Vietnam, you obviously had, like, the helicopters and stuff like that that were turning up, and, you know, stuff like that. That was pretty cool. Like, they could add more stuff like that. Why are you on automatic? And I feel like it would be cool if there was, like, a theme around it. Like, I don't see that with any of the new maps. They just seem completely random, and they don't really add anything to the game apart from, you know, them being a map in it. It would be cool if they could build, like, a theme around it, add it to the theme of the update. Like, the theme of this update was terrible. It was Alpha Strike, right? Which is just because of the Alpha jets. So, you got a French jet and a German jet. Okay, well, whatever, fine. Seems okay, I suppose, but nothing too interesting. And then, on top of that, okay, so we're doing that. And, so what else is going on? That's about it. Okay, so what's the theme of the map around the Alpha Jets? Well, one of them is French, one of them is German, and this map is from Holland. Okay? It doesn't really do anything, right? Like, there isn't really a hook, let's say, to that. There's nothing really going on there that you can go, oh, okay, well, you know, this is linked to this, and that is linked to that. It's just straight up just random stuff at the end of the day. So, I don't know. I think I would prefer if they just had something which made them more similar, or something which made them more, you know, attached to them. I think that would be kind of cool. Hey, War Thunderbolt, nice to see you. Maybe one day. By the way, you see this decap? Let's go, baby. It's walrus time. Oh! Super rude. What else was that? Yeah, the IS-2, well, the heavy tanks in general suffer in higher tiers, right? Like there isn't really a lot of vehicles that do well when they're in higher tiers, when they're heavies. Boom, look at that, man. I was able to cap with the walrus. Let's go. The reason why I had to stay in the walrus is because the thing will just take off. Yeah, you see it's trying to take off now. Now that it's the AI doing it. Oh no, it's dead. Sad. The capture base with the walrus. But yeah, I think with the IS-2s, they upped their BRs, but then they did the classic, like, oh, we'll just give them a better shell and they'll be fine. Yeah, but what if you don't have the shell? You know, what about that? But hopefully now they've started committing to doing BRs based on, you know, game mode. Maybe we could, you know, get the next stage, which is the BRs by modification, and then maybe we can finally realize some great dreams that, you know, could be in War Thunder. Some things that have been talked about for many years and kind of sorted, or, you know, gone around the place. It would be cool. I think it would be nice to finally see that stuff get a lease of life, and for people to finally start moving on to different stuff. Nowadays, though, like when I look at platforms and social media, like it is basically all just like baiting posts, I think is probably the best way to put it. Like, it's, what's your favorite vehicle? Do you see this vehicle that's obviously overpowered? I don't think it's overpowered. Or why do you think this vehicle is overpowered? It's just boring. Like, it's cheap thrills, I think is the way to put it. So yeah, we'll see what goes on. So then we have Charlie Harris. I'll be honest, I always look forward to War Thunder's April Fools, partly due because, well, they're always so interesting, and oftentimes the event the event theme is so out of left field. It's almost like you don't expect it, and it's always really nice. I actually agree with that. Yeah, they always come up with some pretty unique stuff, which is nice. And I think the only April Fool's event in War Thunder that I didn't like was the Mechanized Infantry, which I think that was the name of it. You mean Mobile Infantry, like the last year's one? Yeah, that one wasn't great. I didn't enjoy some of the other ones. Like the submarine one was boring as piss, but yeah. Let's see. I didn't really like it, maybe because I just wasn't used to the controls, or maybe people would just jump around like complete lunatics. Which kind of made it hard to aim. So yeah, although the only April Fool's events that I actually enjoyed was Warfare 2077, Earth Thunder, and Silent Thunder. So I'm excited for this year's April Fool's, because you never know. As seems to be the thing with these April Fool's events, they're always testing something with them. Yeah, pretty much. If I'm not mistaken, Earth Thunder was testing the viability of vertical takeoff in landing aircraft, and lo and behold, we have vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, so who knows what this year's April Fool's is going to be testing. Yeah, I mean, it's designed for two things, right? It's designed for a bit of fun, and it's designed to test mechanics, right? And if you want a really interesting thing, right? One of the things to look at is, or one of the things to look at is the Unreal Engine kind of launch that Epic Games just did. They just did a what do you call it? Like they just did a presentation on Unreal Engine 5.4 or something, and they actually talk about a lot in that presentation. The idea about how they personally use Fortnite to test a bunch of their ideas, because obviously, you know, Fortnite's pretty big. So whenever they release a new product, it isn't just, you know, doing that product. It's testing some new ideas that they've thrown in around the place at the same time. That presentation is very enlightening because you got to remember Epic Games own Unreal Engine, and Fortnite is very much a platform of not just Fortnite but also making games. And Gaijin is in a very similar situation where they have the Daegor engine, and they obviously have a bunch of games that are based off of it too. They also changed the way that their kind of like licensing or like partner agreements worked with Daegor, which was kind of nice to see last year, so it should be open to more people now. But it's one of those which, at least to me, is really interesting to look at, because it gives you an insight into how these companies work, and how even if they say, you know, this isn't just for testing or whatever, it might be, it's going to be there for a little bit of testing and also for fun. It can, like, I feel like with companies, one of the key things in all the decisions that get made is there are always multiple reasons why you implement something. There isn't usually just a solo reason, right? A lot of people bake stuff down to, well, just make money. Yeah, that's great. Well, and that's awesome. But there's a bunch of like different reasons, or a bunch of different ways to make that money. So like, you know, all that. But the major thing is you can add something in which you think is fun, but also it can be for other reasons too, such as testing a new thing, or, you know, working out what's kind of going on. And that's how I see the April Fool's stuff. Yes, it's supposed to be fun. Yes, it's supposed to be through some cool themes. Maybe we'll get some more June stuff this year, like we did when June 1 was becoming a thing. But the main thing is, you know, it has to be fun, and also has to be, you know, kind of enjoyable to do. Like the event that I think I enjoyed one of the most was Tailspin. I thought Tailspin was pretty fun. That one was quite enjoyable. I had a really good time with that. And you know, I usually have a good time with most of the April Fool's events, but yeah, the submarine one was pretty rough both times. And then also the other one that was pretty rough was the mobile infantry one. And the main thing, as I said before, was just desync. Like it wasn't fun, it wasn't enjoyable. It just basically meant that, you know, I just got hammered over and over again, and that doesn't bring joy, I think is probably the way to put it. Like it just doesn't bring fun. it just brought a lot of frustration. Well, there was multiple submarine events. There was one which was part of an April Fool's, which was Silent Thunder, and then they brought it back again because Silent Thunder had a bunch of bugs in it. And then they had the one last year, which was the German one, whatever that German one was. Right, let's do this. Let's keep going with the Southampton. We're 60% of the way through it now. Pretty good. So we have JTR. Let's see. I've been playing French Ranquan. I don't know why people think it's bad. 1.3 is a decently fun lineup, or I've been gaslit into thinking that. Right, sorry Bryce, but let's just see what's at 1.3 for France. So in order to get to 1.3, you have to get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vehicles. But you have the D2, which has weak penetration, terrible targeting speed, and weak armor because it has the flat bit on the front. You got the S-35, which has the same issue, the AMC, which is okay, but no scouting, and then the Lorraine, which is okay, but wasn't there at the start, right? All of these vehicles get neutered and nuked by any of these vehicles that are so much better than them. Any of these vehicles, there's a reason why all of these are much higher BR than a lot of them. And then also any of these vehicles. That's why. Like, just because something is not that bad doesn't mean that other things are not better, right? That's why. Israel should be a subtree of France, mainly because there is that one short Sherman that has a French SA-50 turret. Don't quote me on this. And also because the Macabre is a supersized AMX-13 with an extra coma zone. Thanks for reading our comments. The Macabre is a supersized AMX-13 with an extra chroma zone. I can't think of two vehicles that are any different from each other than those two vehicles. Oh, that's fantastic. I honestly can't. Oh, that's... But yeah, I mean, I would just split Israel up into the different nations, you know, just stick in the vehicles where they're wanted, right? There's hardly any French vehicles in the Israeli tech tree, but there is a lot of what's the word? There is a lot of there are a lot of crossover with their vehicles, like obviously with the trading and stuff like that. Wasn't the M4 Sherman with the MX-13 SA-50 turret a captured vehicle from Egypt? I mean, probably. There are a bunch of Shermans that they can add if they want to Israel. You know, the standard Shermans and the ones with the French guns. They did make at least 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Oh, it was a great shot, Bryce, you know. I feel very powerful after that one. But yeah, I think the reason why people say French rank 1 is bad is because it is actually legitimately bad. Like the vehicles have less penetration than many other vehicles. They aren't as fun to play, and generally do not feel very fun. So yeah, if you compare them to most of the other nations in the game, I'm getting crucified by like 3 or 4 cruisers here. If you compare them to most of the other vehicles in the game, you at the BR that they're at, you realize how poor that they are, and they're not very fun. So not really worth it, which is why it's kind of hard to get through. You do have to understand though that getting through it is not that bad, and you will eventually, you know, sort it out and get it done, and then it's, you know, it's not too shabby. No. There's like a Cleveland or something like that that's just boxing me up. What a pain. There we go. So yeah, I would honestly say, because I hit this guy, I'm gonna die now. God damn it, man. Once again, I don't know how this guy can target me when I'm like this. By the way, that guy who's been shooting me, I haven't been able to target this whole time. I have no idea who it is. I'm pretty sure it's the light vehicle back there. When you have a look at like the shots coming in, maybe you can tell me how I'm actually targeted by this guy. Because look where he is. Like, isn't that just crazy? Yeah. Unfortunate, and yeah, it's either the one Atlanta or both Atlantas, and that's it. So, a vehicle they refuse to put up in BR, by the way. The Atlanta has more firepower than this vehicle. It has more survivability and everything. But yeah, it has to stay at 5.3 because I don't know. They feel like it has to. So then we have Jerry. Jedi. I'm excited to see what Gaijin does for April Fool's event since it's pretty soon. I think a World War I event where you can drive Saint-Chamons, Mark 5s and other tanks of that era will be cool. I just hope they do more than last year, since the only thing that was new was the mechs, which got pretty boring. A new map, new sounds, new crew voice lines would be pretty cool. Something to the level of the Arrakis event would be nice. Last year they did like a decent amount of new stuff, like obviously all of the mobile infantry stuff. The maps themselves were different from the standard ones. I think it was that's one of the things they definitely kind of showed what they could do, so like variations of pre-existing maps. I think overall like the new stuff that they tested was fine. It just wasn't like the standard mechanic stuff that you see around the place. I honestly think one of the biggest problems with last year, as I said, was just the sync issues. Because War Thunder is one of those games which is actually a lot better than many others for desync, just because targets are a lot bigger, and you know it's the thing that you see with War Thunder is because you fire one shot every 6 to 10 seconds a lot of the time. If that shot screws up, then it's very obvious, right? Whereas if you are filling somebody with like, I don't know, 60 rounds from an HMG from, I don't know, like Battlefield or Call of Duty, you're not going to notice like 5 rounds not doing anything, which is, you know, what ends up happening. So for me, that's like, you know, the big difference between the two, when at least when I look at it. I do hope we do get something on the level of Battle of Arrakis, just not as long as Arrakis, right? And that's the big one. Like June 2 is here, so maybe they do something like that, you know, a little bit of an addition thing. But I feel like Arrakis more comes back as like its own solo event. I just really don't want it to last a month. Like, that's it. I don't want it to last like this 20 days or whatever. I'm fine with the event lasting that long, but I just don't want to be sat there, you know, for 10 days out of 20, grinding the same things over and over again, like doing doing different stuff and like moving from there. It's just kind of a pain to be able to do that, right? And for me, I think it's important to get right the level of grind in these types of events, like the tank football one. So it's this tank football one that they've just done. I was able to get all the new rewards, so 200 of them in about 5 days, and the event itself is up for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I think overall that's a pretty decent setup. Now obviously, you know, I played tank football before, you know, okay at it, you know, did very well last time, just like going through it. But in order to get all the new rewards, 5 days grind out of like 25, okay. But having to do like that much in the Arrakis stuff and also everything feeling the same over and over again, not a huge fan. So right now, especially with the crafting event stuff and especially with the new event cycle, I think one of the things that I would be focusing on is time. time is the big one now. Like, you know, how long does it take people to do this? What is the average? What are we okay with them being? What are we okay with them having from that point? And also at the same time, what what makes them actually feel like that they've achieved a lot over that period of time, right? That for me would be the things that would be going through my head with this like new system that they've created. And I think that's pretty important, right? Dude, why did my walrus crash? Okay, whatever. Like, I was gonna... I saw my walrus just like in the water here. Like, what is he doing? Yeah, that's fun. Hey, Cathoris, nice to see you. It can definitely take a long time depending on what area you're at, but you know, it's depends on what you play the game for, right? Like, that's the for me, I just play the game just to try different things and have a bit of fun with it. If you play it just to like get to top tier, then yeah, you're gonna have a bit of a problem. Like, it's gonna drain on you just like it does a lot of people. So usually, like, I always talk about how mentality wise that one's gonna be the one that's gonna get the people into the most issues. So we have Isaac D. Alencar. Hello, Tech. Hello. What do you think about the possibility of the MH370 aircraft in this game? It would have the best evasion in this game at top tier, in my opinion. The evasion? What is the MH370? For some reason, when I think about that, I think of gangs. I don't know why. Oh, the one. It's the. It's the plane that got lost in. Is it the Bermuda Triangle or whatever? It just disappeared. I mean, they did put the Evergreen tanker in. That was a nice little thing. But I don't know. Like, I'm fine with like stuff like that if they wanna chuck it in. I feel like a bit tongue in cheek on those things is, you know, a little bit of fun, but you know, you don't want to make people sad about that stuff. It's always weird how things like that just kind of disappear, you know. There's a mobile game with the Mustang with AIM-9Ls. God damn. That's what we call a cool vehicle. Yeah, I don't know. Like, generally, I would be fine with like references like that to the real world. Like, we already have them in game, right? And as long as they're done tastefully, like, I don't think running a campaign where it's like, oh, do you remember, you know, you remember these guys, and oh, what happened to them? Oh, like, I don't think that would be very cool. But you know, they could definitely add something in. Maybe not as a playable vehicle, but they could put it in the background of a profile pic or something like that. It would be quite fun. I always like little references like that. There's a bunch of them in game already. Should really do like a video on that stuff. It's like, here's what you missed. Look at this random thing. Where do you think this is from? Where do you think this is from? I think that would be kind of cool. Right. See, so then we have user. You should only record videos while you have hiccups. I don't get hiccups that often anymore, so I don't know how I would do that, especially on a day by day. I'd have to learn how to force hiccups. Does anybody know how to force hiccups? Because I don't even know what causes a hiccup. It must be something to do with trapping air, like in one of your pipes, and your body trying to force it out instead of like throwing up, right? But yeah, I don't know. Would have to give it a go. Eat a lot of food very quickly? Yeah, but like, why? First of all, I can't do that every day because I'll just turn into the size of a house again. And why does that trigger it? You know, I'd have to have a look. Mate, what is going on? Brother's still stuck going in a circle though. go. Hiccups are your diaphragm spasming? So, how would I be able to do that standardly? How could I force my diaphragm to spasm? I don't know. I'll figure out a way. But also, they hurt. Like, those donkey hiccups hurt. So, you know, just actually having those really doesn't feel very good. So, like, it actually, like, from here and then, like, here, it hurts my body. So, I don't really feel like going through that type of pain every day. I wouldn't see it as a positive, you know? Wouldn't be grand. So then we have Logamandan. A very rhythmical name. I like that. Do you think anything will ever be done about casts of the high tiers? All melee missiles can be outrun or outturned by most planes. Saclosa 11-7. Not to mention choppers shooting from behind hills. I don't mind air as an element, in ground, but some aspects seem to have zero counter. At low tiers, I don't mind getting bombed and then blasting away with SPA and killing the planes, but 11-7, this doesn't work, really, unless it's a head-on trade. Yeah, there's a real problem at high tier, and it's... I mean, the way that I think would be best to deal with something like that is straight up, like... the way to deal with stuff like that would actually be straight up to make the... what's the word? To make it harder to get into cast elements. I really think that's the way to go. After the drone age thing, so when they added the drones, a lot of people complained about the drones because they were easy, just like point and click, and there you go. There's 2 kills with no issues, right? But for me, drones symbolized a much worse issue with pretty much like what was going on, because you have a lot of planes which, yeah, they have a downside because you have to actually, you know, pay repair costs, which isn't really, you know, a huge thing for most people anymore. And now, with, you know, the way that they're all set up, you now have an even larger problem because basically you have drones which have 10 times the ordnance and can go higher and faster and move around the place, and they're called planes. So yeah, I personally think that the way to do all this stuff is just to have more of a handle on moving around. Different spawn costs for different things. I think they're very, very slow to do changes like that. And I don't think they should be. I think in general it would be better if they were a little bit quicker on that. I think it would be a lot more enjoyable of a game if they did that, right? So that would be much better. Hey Monet, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everything's alright. But yeah, top tier for a long time has basically just been who can get into the plane quick enough and who is good enough in the plane to move around stuff, right? And that ain't very fun. You know, it's not really that enjoyable, so we'll have to see as we go how it goes. Yeah. What's my opinion on the Stir Tiger gets RC tanks things as a modification? Oh, you mean like the little mine thing? Like the little car, the little remote control thing? I think it would be better to give to something else, but yeah. I think it would be a lot better to do stuff like that. Yeah, Goliath, yeah, that's the one. So that would be quite nice. I think overall that would be something that could be cool, but maybe not for the Sturm Tiger, but just for, once again, just for like TDs or something that aren't doing very well. Please pray that Ecstatic win against Furia. I mean, fair. By the way, it's been confirmed, the Princess of, or the Duchess or whoever of Wales, basically Kate Middleton, the reason why she's been away for some months is not because she's getting a Brazilian butt lift, or it's not because William has been cheating on her, even though he may have done. Those were two of the theories that were going around. Turns out she's just got cancer. So, kind of sad, and yeah, sucks. So, like, you know, it's Prince Charles and Kate Middleton have both been hit. Hopefully they don't go the herbology route, and hopefully they go the standard route. So, yeah, hopefully everything's good. Kind of sad. Big Fs. So, I'm sure she'll be fine. She'll get that royal treatment. You know how it goes. Nobody actually... The only time you die as a royal is if you are truly well and pickled. You know, the fact that the Queen's mother got up to the age that she did should give you a pretty obvious look into how well looked after they are. Then we have Victor Korp. Let's see. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if Argentina was formally added to Germany. Technically it is, and it's not because of the TAM series, but in the case of the JPZK2, it's just an Austrian-French tank that has very little to do with Germany in this case. And then there's stuff like the Pulqui 2, which is literally a construction of a cancelled German jet fighter. Yeah, but don't talk about the designer of that one. Ooh. Ooh, naughty, naughty. Yeah, don't mention that name. Does anybody know who designed the early Pulquins? He's got a very simple, like, few syllable name. And he is he's a wonderful export of Germany after the Second World War. Oh dear. He was actually exported to a bunch of different places to build some aircraft. And everybody just conveniently forgot that he was a Nazi. Yeah, good old Kurt Tank. Our boy, Kurt Tank. But yeah, so, I mean, as I said, the reason why I would like Argentina added to Germany is straight up for the memes. You know, I think it would be funny as hell, just because of the history between them and the, you know, the classic phrase, they are not beating the allegations. So, yeah, it's, I think it would be enjoyable. I'd have a good laugh, you know, and that's what life is about, right? It's about giggling, having fun, enjoying yourself. In general, I think it would be nice to diversify more both in air and ground for Germany. There's a lot of stuff that can be added, like Meteors, Mirages, Lancaster Bombers, Beaufighters, Super Étendards, Sherman Fireflies, ML90, F9F, and so on, with possible premiums. Yee. No, it's not me not wanting to play Israel UK out of laziness. Well, no, the major reason why you wouldn't add a sub-tech tree to Germany is because they don't need it. The only area of Germany where they struggle is between like the 7.0 to the 9.0 area, and they're already filling that out with different vehicles, right? So the fact is, it doesn't really matter about variety or diversity or whatever. They have all the vehicles that they need, and it's also one of the most played tech trees, or if not the most played tech tree when it comes to these things. So for me personally, that would be a reason not to add it to them. I think Argentina should be added into the game, but just like how, you know, you have the JPZK A2, which is an Austrian-French thing, you have the SK-105, which is in the French tech tree. You could easily make more of a case for them to be in the French tech tree because of obviously the export trade that France did over the years, and obviously the relationships that they had with many South American countries. But yeah, I honestly think the reason to not add something to Germany is because they're already crazy strong. You don't need more stuff, right? Simple as. Same reason why, you know, the USSR shouldn't get any sub-tech trees, and also America shouldn't get any sub-tech trees. They have their lineups pretty much filled with their own vehicles. You don't need more from other nations. There are other nations that are struggling and, you know, don't have as full lineups as those, and we've seen great, stuff in Italy and great stuff in Britain and great stuff in, Sweden, which have very much helped with moving stuff around. So it's much better that, they're doing stuff like that instead of what they were doing previously. And Germany is already doing alright. Germany has been doing alright since the birth of War Thunder. They've been handheld and looked after for many years. They're one of the first naval nations put into the game for some reason. And then also, at the same time, they were one of the first aviation, first ground, and everything. They don't need more stuff from other nations. They have enough, right? Simple as. Then we have Fizzacella. Whoops. Where STR Westre. No idea. No idea what that means. Maybe it's a reference to Australia. Maybe it's a reference to something else. Got absolutely no idea. So we have Phantom Aviator. Hee rocket go boom. It can do sometimes. Sometimes rocket don't go boom, and then becomes even bigger issue. When rocket no go boom, it's actually more dangerous when rocket go boom, because at least when rocket go boom, you know where it went boom. If you don't know where it go boom, then you don't know if it boomed. And if you don't know where it boomed, what ends up happening is you have to bring in people to see if you can boom it. And if you can't boom it, then you have to clear the whole area because it might just go boom, boom, boom. And we have Chen Chi. Hi Tech, thoughts on a Girls and Panzer collab? I mean, at the end of the day, it makes sense. There's a lot of weebs in the War Thunder community. There's a lot of people who enjoy that stuff. There is a big crossover between anime enjoyment, War Thunder, and depression. So it's a perfect catchment market, as we've seen over the previous period of time. As I've said many times, the major issue that I have with Girls and Panzer is the fact that it sexualizes, teenage girls. Not really a huge fan of that. One of the big issues that I have with Japanese media in general is their idea of sexualizing people who are young, but also at the same time, the whole issue with sex in general is very odd, and I don't like the fact that that part of their culture is kind of being broadcasted to the world, and many people make excuses for it. I wouldn't really be happy with something like Girls and Panzer being in War Thunder just because of the whole pedophilic tendencies of it, and as I said, the sexualization of minors. But at the same time, that's always an opinion that gets a lot of pushback, usually from people who enjoy that type of thing. When you have a look at the body pillows that they added to the game recently, they conveniently left out their date of birth. They did that they did that for a very obvious reason, and it makes me sick, and I'm bored of it. I'm sick of the fact that stuff like that just happens, and the fact that they add the blood type in instead of the year of birth, because the blood type is some weird Japanese thing where they like blood types are like not Horcruxes. Blood types are like their version of the star stuff. What's it called? Astrology. So like if you have a certain blood type, this means you're a certain thing. But hey presto, guess what? They still don't put proper date of births on these things, because they don't. If they put down that, just think about this thought in your head. If they put a year to the date of birth and they're an adult, that means there is now a set of people who are now disinterested in that fake body pillow character. And they are placating those people by not doing that. Like, it's a conversation that's really annoying to have, and I've had it several times, and I've heard all the different sides of it, and it's just screwed, right? The whole thing is just kind of busted up. So would it be a good collaboration? Yes, because there's crossovers between the things. Should it happen? No, because of the issues that it brings. I mean, we all know the Strike Witches collab that War Thunder Japan did, where once again they are literally sexualizing minors in the adverts, showing their underwear, showing like literally doing sexualized poses with characters which are actually labeled as young as 12 or 14. If you're okay with that, fair enough, you go ahead. I'm not fine with that. Not really into sexualizing minors. I think it's a very negative thing, and as somebody who knows people who have unfortunately had very poor experiences because of sexual assaults when they were younger, not really interested to a game or any product to really support that idea, right? So that's pretty much it. Simple as. There are much better collaborations that they could do which are much more mature orientated, which would be cool. But who knows? Maybe we see them, maybe we don't. We'll have to see what goes on. Simple. Right, that's the last question. Do any of you guys have anything from the chat that you want to go through? Well, we're just kind of chilling, playing some Naval, getting the Mark of Distinction done. We got both our dailies done, which is cool, and also at the same time, we're very far through our special, which is nice. So yeah, everything's going pretty Gucci with the 5.7s today. Oh, we could finish off with the Darwin Award for the Tech Talk. That would be good. Let's see. So this is Fantastic Plastic Lover, England, 2000. A husband who frequently asked his wife to cover his nose and mouth with her nightie during lovemaking decided to add a plastic bag to his repertoire of solo sex tools. What? Martin, 34, pulled a plastic bag over his head and used a vacuum cleaner to remove the air. He was found lying on the still-running vacuum cleaner, fully clothed and very dead. Well then, fair enough. And then there's also Robert, 37, shot himself dead while explaining gun safety to his wife. He placed a .45 caliber pistol he thought was unloaded under his chin and pulled the trigger. Robert's wife told police that the incident occurred after her complaints about her husband's extensive gun collection prompted him to demonstrate their safety. So there you go. Hey Diaboli, nice to see you. Happy Friday. Doing good. We're just doing the tech talk. Just relaxing. Everything's good though. Feeling nice. But yeah. A toaster oven wellness index? What? Ditch your air fryer and replace it with this magic multitasker. Oh, I already have one of those. We're good then. Easy peasy. Anyway, this will be the end of the tech talk. We'll continue streaming, but yeah, we're done for the week. For that, hopefully you all have a good week. We have one more week, I think, and then it is the it is going to be time for April Fools and a few other things. Make sure to get the Naval event done. Make sure to have a bit of fun. And look after yourselves. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.